I'm Dan Clevenger, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Peru in 1969, 1970. We were initially, my wife and I, Anne, were posted to Juliaca down by Lake Titicaca initially, and then later moved up to Chimbote on the northern coast north of Lima. We had a wonderful, certainly wonderful Peace Corps experience for the time we were there. But my experience ended in a great, great tragedy. Not all Peace Corps volunteer experiences are the wonderful 2 years that people certainly have and or remember for the rest of their lives. In our case, we started out wonderfully. We were newlyweds. We had been married in November of 1968. When I was graduating, I graduated from college in 1969, and she had graduated from college the year before. And we were wondering, well, what are we going to do with ourselves? And the idea of joining the Peace Corps came to us. We applied, and lo and behold, we were accepted. It was a wonderful thing. We went down to Mexico. I have a lot of stories down in Mexico about our training. We went to Toluca, Mexico. A wonderful experience down there. I can remember being sent out for my Spanish, to work on my Spanish, to a marvelous a small hacienda in Mexico. It was exquisite. Beautiful cornfields. And I remember being, I was there 4 or 5 days, and every morning they would bring me these wonderful milkshakes, papaya, mango. Oh, it was paradise. It really was wonderful. And the training was very interesting. I was to do in Peru. We were concerned with wild bulls up on the Altiplano, and so the idea then was the Ministry of Agriculture wanted people to go get out there, rope the bulls, and castrate them. So we were doing that in Mexico. Boy, it was crazy and wild and dangerous. But anyway, off we went from Mexico to Peru in the fall of 1969. Went up to Juliaca by Lake Titicaca. My first memory is Cusco, and being absolutely astounded by the Incan stonework, the walls, you know, the incredible, how did they fit these huge, gigantic boulders together so that you couldn't get a pin or a piece of paper, you know, in. This is something that people are aware of. And boy, it was exactly that way. And we were amazed by that, I can remember. Then we went down to Juliaca on a wonderful train ride from Cusco down to Juliaca, first class train. It was marvelous. We were waited on hand and foot by the employees of the railroad, and with the views and the experiences and the people that were on that train, it was special. I don't remember a lot of details, but I just remember how marvelous that experience was. And Juliaca, well, we arrived in Juliaca, got an apartment, went to work. I went to work for the Ministry of Agriculture. Anne went to work, I think, for the same outfit. She was doing women's clubs, education around childbearing and nutrition and so forth, that sort of thing. Trying to get the women also to helping them in their economic efforts, you know, to create baskets or whatever, weave things and sell them and so on. So she was very busy. On my side, there had been a revolution in Peru just at that time. A military revolution, and the generals, however, were leftists, and they were engaged in the project of taking land from the hacendados, from the big haciendas, and creating cooperatives for the indigenous, the Incan Indians, you know, and giving them the land. So the project with the bulls wasn't happening. I do have some memories about planting potatoes. I can remember one time I arrived at the Ministry of Agriculture one morning, and there was a large crowd of Peruvian men, Indians, waiting there, all with their hat in their hands behind their backs. And I was wondering what's going on. Well, they had a huge warehouse full of little seed potatoes, and those guys were waiting for their seed potatoes. It was very interesting to see that. But we went all over the Altiplano for about 3 or 4 months there. But again, the major project that I had been assigned wasn't happening. And somehow or the other, I don't remember how it happened or who did it, but we were, somebody in the Peace Corps down in Lima decided we needed to be transferred. So we were transferred from Juliaca down to Chimbote on the coast, the north coast of Peru, north of Lima, where we were going to do community development kind of work. Chimbote was very interesting. It was a seaside town, so it had a large fishing industry, anchovies. The air was very smelly, very dirty. You'd wake up in the morning and you'd have your throat would be coated with the smoke. It also had a large steel mill. It was Peru's main industrial city. The advantage of the mill, though, was that they had a marvelous swimming pool that they had built for the workers and for the public. And Ann and I would go down to that pool, and we would have wonderful experience swimming. She was an excellent swimmer. She was almost on the U.S. Olympic team in 1964. She missed out by just one person beat her in one race. So she was an excellent swimmer. But we had a wonderful time in Chimbote swimming in that pool. And I have to say this, she saved me from the undertow. We went to the beach there, and the seashore is very steep down there, and of course I was very naive. I didn't know what I was doing. I stepped into it, thought I'd, got to my knees, and boy, my legs were taken right out from under me, and off I went. And I was terrified. I thought I was going to die. I mean, I had no way to fight that ocean. It was scary. Somehow she had swum out and grabbed the top of my head like this and pulled me back and saved me. And I'll always be grateful for that. But we were having a good time in Chimbote. One of the stories we always talk about is how rich we were. Our Peace Corps salaries were about $120 each. We could easily live $75 or $80 the both of us in Peru, so we had plenty of extra money every month. The largest bill in Peru at that time was a 500 soli bill, which was a large piece of parchment worth $12. Well, everywhere we went, nobody had ever seen one, and yet I had 500 soli bills, in all my pockets, dozens of them. They were $12 each. But nobody had ever seen one, so they would say, well, can I look at it? Or we'd go to some of the street vendors, and of course they couldn't change a 500 soli bill. We had other bills, of course, smaller bills that we used. But I just remember that we could go anywhere and do anything we wanted because we had all kinds of money as punk Peace Corps volunteers. We were learning Spanish, we were bonding, we were having a wonderful time, we were planning of the future, what we were going to do after the Peace Corps was over. Oh, it was just so exciting. It was marvelous. It was just exquisite. The way all the Peace Corps volunteers will talk about it, of course. It was a wonderful thing. We were so proud to be there. The Peruvians were very responsive to us. They loved the president, President Kennedy. By that time, of course, he was deceased, but they remembered him well, and it was just a fabulous experience until May 31st, 1970, a Sunday afternoon, about 4 o'clock.